Welcome back to another part of this RWBY fanfiction reading, Bright Lights of Bumblebee by Brightbriar. So, this time, we're doing the third part, which is hopefully the last part, and we're going to get right into it. Hey, Blake. Blake nearly jumped in surprise as she heard Yang's voice behind her as she emerged from the lecture theater. A few days had passed since she's seen the blonde on Saturday. She couldn't control the grin that appeared instantly on her face, or the warmth that spread to her cheeks when she remembered that evening. Hey, how did you know I'd be here? Your schedule's on your wall, remember? Blake shrugged and sat down next to the door, pulling a book out of her bag. Not right now, Yang, I need to read this. Yang frowned. Not this urgently, surely. It's for this Jane Austen literature course. She pulled a pair of headphones out of her pocket, plugged them into her phone, and slowly chose a song and put them in her ears, the human ones. Yang's eyebrows shot up. So this is why you don't have any friends. Blake grinned even more, rolling her eyes. Seriously, Yang, I need to read this book by Wednesday. Yang shrugged and sat down next to her. What are you listening to? I'm reading a book. Come on, please. Come on, please. That's what the song's called. I'm reading a book. Yang narrowed her eyes in disbelief. Blake didn't protest as the blonde took out her headphones and put them in her own ears. Oh my god, she laughed, eyes gleaming in amusement. This song's actually called I'm Reading a Book. Yes. Reading a book? Yes. Austen thing by Wednesday? Yes. Is it good? Yes. So you're just gonna sit here? Yes. Yang frowned, sensing that the conversation was getting a little repetitive. Are you even listening to me? Yes. Psychology is a soft science. Yes. Yang grinned deviously, so Blake wasn't listening. No psychology student would agree with that statement. Am I the most fabulous human being you've ever laid eyes on? Yes. Wait. Blake's eyes widened and she realized what she said. Then she punched Yang lightly. Then she paused before replying again. Yes. Aw. Or aw. Yang blinked as she felt her phone buzz. She quickly opened her emails, biting her lip as she read, her eyes quickly becoming dark with concern. Yep. There are a few grammar issues in this story, as we've seen. Yep. Blake tapped her on the shoulder. What is it? Osmond wants to see me. Doesn't sound good. When? As soon as I get this email. Yang sounded tense. Blake closed her book. I'm coming with you, but you're not stopping me, and neither is Osmond. What do you think it's about? I have no idea, but it doesn't sound good, she repeated. Osmond's office was at the very top of the castle-like building that was the campus of Beacon. Neither of them were in the mood for talking up the stairs, so they went straight for the elevator, or for walking up the stairs. When they arrived, Yang was the one that knocked. I am the one who knocks. Come in. Osmond certainly wasn't a young man. He had graying hair and sometimes used a cane, but he had a young face and voice. He sat at his desk, a cup of coffee in hand. To Blake's surprise, he didn't seem surprised to see her here too. Yang, Blake, please sit down. Yang was tapping her thumb on her knee again, the same way she had when she read the horror novel. Then Blake gave her an encouraging nudge. Then they both sat down. Yang cleared her throat. What did you want me for? You are here to turned very still. Yang's fist was clenched, shaking. No, that can't be right. One of your classmates had an identical essay to yours. We were able to track who wrote what, when, and at what pace, and you appear to have written this essay in approximately 2 minutes with the help of copy-paste. Is this true? No! Yang stood up, her chair flying out behind her. It was Neo. She rigged the whole thing. God damn it. She said she'd get back at me. Blake frowned, glancing from Osmond to Yang. Both of them must have known what this meant. Yang would be expelled if she couldn't prove she hadn't plagiarized. There must be some mistake. Yang stepped up to Osmond's desk, practically shouting, "You're dealing with IT students. Neo rigged the system. Neo did a thing with coding and messed up everything. I didn't steal anything. I didn't." She staggered away, sinking back into her chair. "It was Neo." That may be true, but furthermore, Ozpin paused deliberately, and Yang looked up tense. Blake clenched her fist. He couldn't do this. This couldn't be happening. Yang didn't have to leave, surely. We have heard that you, Yang, have evolved yourself in relationships deemed inappropriate by some of the other staff. The room went silent. Blake wondered for a brief moment if Yang had been cheating on her, but that was impossible. In their straight as a circle relationship. Good one. Then Blake spoke up, her voice hard. "If she goes, I go." Blake. Yang was silenced by a glare from the faunus, looking dejected, defeated. Ozpin's gaze softened. "I do not want to do this, and I wouldn't dream of expelling either of you on such grounds, but Yang, this has made some of the staff very keen to get rid of you. Unless you provide evidence that that work was your own work, I'm going to have no choice." Blake paused and sat back again, his posture... Wait, what? Okay. Obviously, the author didn't mean to put Blake there, but whatever. Oh my goodness! She glanced pleadingly at Yang, but the blonde's expression was blank. You can't. Yang, I'm very sorry, but you're going to have to leave Beacon. Yang hardly said a word to Blake on the way back. She didn't want the faunus sympathy. Her mind was racing. She had to leave Beacon, and she had to leave Blake. Oh my god, she repeated for at least the fourth time. Blake tried to say she'd leave too, but Blake wouldn't let her, even if her career was possibly going down the drain because of one stupid arms around Yang's waist. Wait. Yang turned to face the faunus. The gentle, warm breeze flowed through the courtyard they were walking in. Everything seemed so still. "When do I say goodbye?" Blake asked quietly. Then Yang couldn't take it anymore. She threw herself against Blake, burying her head in her shoulder, crying, trembling. "Never." Blake pulled her closer, making Yang's heart lurch, running her fingers through her hair. "We have no choice." Yang took a deep, shaky breath. "This isn't goodbye. I don't do goodbyes," she sniffled, stepping back, gazing at Blake with tear-filled eyes. "I swear I'll find you again." "Yeah?" Blake replied weakly, whispering, her voice breaking as she started to cry too. "How will you manage that?" Yang closed her... Oh, my God. Yang closed her eyes, wrapping her arms around Blake, hugging her, simply being there with her, close to her, until everything else faded away. Magic. Part 5, Epilogue. Another year passed, with not a single word about Yang. Blake liked to think that she'd moved on, but she knew that was a lie of the century. She was now into her second year at Beacon. Things had gone smoothly in terms of classes and grades. She'd found a job just on the weekends at that cafe, the White Stag. As we don't actually know the name of it. Anyways. A girl called Weiss Schnee, who was approaching the end of year 11. She hadn't been a fan at first. Weiss could be stuck-up, self-centered, and downright bitchy sometimes, proud, and was fairly short-sighted a lot of the time. But Blake had eventually learned that she was very insecure. She had an awful lot of money and knew that was the only reason why people generally endeavored to get close to her. And when she was in a good mood, she was nice enough. Being the bookish person she reminded Blake of Mr. Darcy, proud, rich, but also shy, not sure how to express herself, and someone who really looked after the people she cared about. Recently, Weiss had formed a strong crush on a certain customer, Ruby Rose. Funnily enough. It was absolutely adorable to watch. Weiss had been in a brilliant mood all morning, following conversations she'd had with Ruby the previous day. But it was really starting to freak Blake out. Weiss was never this happy, as a rule. The bell on the door rung, and Ruby came in. Weiss's mood had put up a huge effort not to come. "Hi, the usual." Weiss's voice was trembling a little. "Yes, please, but I can't stay today," Ruby replied. "Yang's waiting outside." Blake's eyes widened, and her heart probably stopped there and then. Everything became silent for a moment. She glanced over at Ruby, her mind still reeling, disbelief overwhelming her. Did you say Yang? Yeah, she's my sister, Ruby said brightly, not at all sensing Blake's shock. Do you know her? Blake frowned. Wild yellow hair? Yeah, that's the one. Blake smiled. That was the same phrase Yang had used when Blake had asked the name of her dorm. She knew Yang had a sister called Ruby. How could she not have realized? You don't have the same surname. We're half-sisters. How do you know her? Blake blinked. Just a thing. I thought I met her at a concert once, 3 years ago. She narrowed her eyes, thinking. I wonder if she'd remember me. Of course she would, you idiot. I'll tell her you were here. What? No, no, no. She opened her mouth to protest, to say that she shouldn't mention it, but Ruby interrupted her. Ooh, and can I get a cronut too? Or whatever, okay. Chocolate, please. Helpless and Blake bit her tongue and put the cronut into the paper bag. Weiss handed Ruby a drink. One. Wang's over there. Yang's the other side of that door. Blake felt the room start to spin as she processed this. Weiss and Ruby exchanged a few more words, and Ruby left. Yang. Ruby pulled the cloak around her and climbed onto the back of Yang's motorcycle. She brought the tea to her lips, just had a small sip, and smiled. It was perfect, just like Weiss. He looked up at the sound of her sister's voice. Yeah? You've been quiet. You've been kind of quiet recently. Are you okay? Yeah. What? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. She had another sip of the tea. By the way, there was someone in there who said she knew you. Yeah, who? I think her name was Blake. Yang froze part way through putting the keys into the bike to start it up, and Ruby felt her stiffen. Yang, are you okay? The blonde was silent for a couple of seconds. Oh. No, not another ad. Okay, well, if I remember right, that is the end. So weirdly, the epilogue was extremely short, but I guess that figures. Yeah. Well then. Come on. Move along. We don't have time to spend on this. What are you doing? I believe this is the end, and that is essentially where it leads into White Rose Tea, although White Rose Tea starts before that moment. This is also essentially where White Rose Tea ends. It's just set over a much shorter amount of time than the 4 years or something that this story is set over. Once I can actually move on. Hey, but yeah. So that's yeah. But yeah, and then of course they talk, and then of course the writer talks about the next ones, and then. Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, or Rorowak. But wait before you read that, yeah. So obviously you have to read the White Rose Tea to understand the plot of that one fully. The interesting thing is that this one and White Rose Tea are finished, but Rorowak isn't finished yet, which is a little disappointing, but I'm still going to try to read it as soon as possible anyways, and then we'll do maybe another part in the future once enough new parts of the story are made. So, that'll be the end of the third part of Bright Lights and Bumblebee, even though it's shorter than the other ones, and next time we'll be